Hello, today's video is called It's Okay If You Don't Want to Answer. These were the words of the lead commissioner to Mendocino. This is my point of view regarding day 28 of the public inquiry to the federal government for invoking the Emergency Act on February 2022. Today is November 22nd, 2022. The agenda for today's overview, today's witnesses, and my point of view. I am going to talk about the comments that I have, not the full summary of the testimonies in the inquiry that seeks to understand if Justin Castro had valid reasons to invoke the Emergency Act on February of this year, and if the powers that the federal government used were exceeding the scope granted by the Act. Based on these findings, the lead commissioner will put forward a recommendation in both English and French by February of next year. This is not a trial, and as we know, this is not an inquiry. All my videos are on YouTube, Lisa Bruce Research, as well as my own website, lisabruceresearch.com, and in this site you can find all the live feed of the inquiry as well as previous sessions. Today we had between 9:30 and almost 8 p.m. Marco Mendocino, Minister of Public Safety, and Dominique Leblanc, Minister of Infrastructure. I am only going to do comments about Marco Mendocino. I had a very busy day. So here we see that the objective with this part of the inquiry is obviously to continue supporting the invocation of the Act. And they started talking, the Commissioner Counselor asking about the background. He was appointed Minister of Public Safety on October of 2021, and prior to that he was a Crown Prosecutor. And there were a couple of things that he said that were really setting the tone of his testimony. One was regarding the situation in Quds, saying that they were armed to the teeth. First of all, not true. And second, it has been established that there is no link between the protesters and these arrests that took place. And I've talked about many times in previous videos, I think this was planted to create the narrative of the violent nature of the convoy, which is not true. The second part is that he used the words of the infamous Pat King, that after a flight, I'm going to say at least a year before the convoy, he said after being expelled from a plane because he was not injected, and he said that he wouldn't be surprised if some BULLETS would be finishing the crime minister, something like that. So he obviously used that against Pat King, saying that he was saying that in the context of the convoy, and everybody knows that's not true. I did a little bit of, as usual, body language observations. He was too confident and too relaxed on the stand. That is odd to me because I've seen many witnesses and that's not normal. You should be at least a little bit serious and a little bit more stressed. He was not. His blink rate was shifting between when he was listening, about 24 per minute. That's a little bit faster than the average person, but what's interesting was that it was faster when he was speaking. So we have talked about this, and this could be a sign of nervousness or deceived. So I don't know, I'm not an expert, but it felt all the time like he was selling a story and he was always looking at the lead commissioner. I just didn't like him as a witness. He felt like the saying goes, like a used car salesperson. He was just not somebody I would trust at all. But the most interesting part was not what happened in regards to the questions that were asked to him, but what transpired as a result of the Council of the Freedom Convoy prior to the break. I would like to submit an application to call Alexander Cohen as a witness. So Alexander Cohen was actually part of some texts that were shown yesterday, and there is proof in those texts that there was communication between the government and the press to build a narrative about the convoy. So clearly, not only that breaks the rules, but it just goes to reaffirm the real coalition between the press and the government. So Brendan, that is the Freedom Convoy Council, said he's present in this room and Mr. Cohen has relevant and material evidence to this proceedings mandate. I have evidence to present to the inquiry the circumstances of the invocation and about the misinformation in building this narrative. So the lead commissioner said, "Can I interrupt? What is your application?" But you can see his body language. He was not really engaging. He was just, what does this mean? It means I'm bored. I don't want to deal with this. I'm tired. Stop talking. And then Brendan said, "I would like to call him as a witness." And then the lead commissioner said, "Is it written? There's no application. I'm not going to do this orally right now." So I sort of understand the position of the lead commissioner. He, Brendan, is doing a deviation from the process, but at the same time, Brendan was saying, "I have put forward 2 recommendations in writing regarding the excessive level of redactment that we have in the documents, and also the last minute abundance of documents that we have been provided with. There's not enough time to look at them." So he was not impressed, and then he's continued, "The government of Canada has redacted all the records from the staffers." And the lead commissioner said, "Please talk to the commission counsel. This is a way to raise the issue, and then we see if we can solve it or not." And then Brendan said, "The schedule is not as important as getting to the truth." Lead commissioner said, "It's not about what you want, but what the commission needs to do." I don't know. I am totally reading between lines with that statement, but that's what he said. So 15 minutes later, the commission counselor had not finished, so the witness was still in the first portion of the direct examination. And remember that the Freedom Convoy counsel is part of the cross-examination, so he was jumping ahead again of the regular structure. You can see here the lead commissioner had not even sat down. Here Mendocino was standing up, and then Brendan was already there, ready to go again. So Brendan said, "Sir," and then the lead commissioner said, "Commission counselor has not completed her examination." "I understand, sir." So the lead commissioner said, I'm sorry. And they started to talk simultaneously. And then Brendan said, "But sir, I have filed 2 options, the redactions of the documents." And then the lead commissioner said, "I am speaking. I will take a break, and you're going to ask to leave, and I will take a break of 5 minutes, and security, can you deal with the counselor?" So that's pretty massive, because Brendan, when he was expelled from the building, obviously he walked on his own accord. He was saying in an interview outside of the building that the lead commissioner does not have the legal authority to expel him from the process. And number 2, his clients have the right to have him in that courtroom. So what was interesting was also Mendocino's body language. So before, you can see how centered he is in the seat. There is almost 50-50 on both sides. And that's typically all the visual you can see through the time. And then when this was happening, you can see how he moved. He was almost scared. You can see his face. So I found that fascinating. This is supposed to be a man who's in charge of security, but he's afraid of a minor confrontation. So I found that incredibly interesting. So let's review a little bit of what Brendan is asking for. So in the interview during the break, he was talking about the high level of redaction of all the documents. We talked about this yesterday and the day before. It's incredible. Every document that we have seen has a lot of areas that are completely blocked from us from reading, and even the staff notes that, according to Brendan, are not protected by any type of secrecy. So the discussion of the Emergency Act, it is his belief, is hidden there. Obviously, I agree with that, and what they are going to do. And you can see here, for example, this is February 4, so this is way before they admit that they were discussing the Emergency Act, but obviously they were already talking about that. Otherwise, why wouldn't we be able to look at that? And the second thing that he's asking is in regards to this photo. So we're going to see later in the video specifically what is his issue with this photo, because he claims he has identified the person who is with the flag, and also he's identifying the photographer who took the picture. So very interesting, and we're going to look about more details in a minute, because he has specific names and he named the names during this process. So why is this important? because it proves that the Emergency Act was always the first and only option considered by the government, and because it proves that the government planted this flag in the protest to be able to build the story about the whole movement being extremist and violent, etc. And the inquiry, he said, this is Brendan's perspective, and I agree with him, is about failures of Chief Slowly and not about the invocation of the act, and I fully agree with that statement as well. Also very important today, for the first time, the government was challenged about this. So I love this counselor from the Democracy Fund, and he was talking, obviously, with Mendocino in the cross-examination about certain measurements, and he was asking about this specific communication of Health Canada, in spite of the lack of information on the long-term safety and effectiveness of this thing. I can't say that word or I'll get pulled. Would you agree that there wasn't enough testing due to the need to rush it? I don't agree with it being rushed. A lot was done in the rollout of this strategy. What? No. Also very important, because he continued with not only that, but the specific groups of people that have been stopped by being injected in different countries. So you may have heard of certain countries, even Florida, for example, in the US, have said anyone under 30 will not be injected, and some countries also in Europe have said we're not doing this anymore. So he's asking, well, this is safety for the group that was being brought by the convoy. And then the answer was, these decisions were made based on the most reliable data. So you can see how you can present to these people the proof of when they say A, I said A, and I said A, and you show the text and you said B. No, I never said that. I don't recall. I don't know. I'm using the best. So it doesn't matter. You will never get the truth from these people. So I don't even know what else to report except more and more lies. The question, when the U.S. approved Pfizer, they requested these two effects. I don't want to talk too much about this because I can get pulled, of the you-know-what until 2027. Were you aware of that? I've never seen this document. So if you're exercising power as leader of public safety and programs, has it ever been a consideration to review safety issues, including the fact that certain countries have stopped injecting people under 30 years? That wouldn't be within mandate. No? I thought you were in charge of safety. What could be more unsafe than injecting poison? Well, clearly he doesn't agree with us. 4 times he was asked. So here we go again with the Freedom Convoy counselor. He was admitted to return, obviously, because legally he has the ability to return to be the lawyer for his clients. And he was talking about, first, he set up the stage by reiterating all the background of Mendocino. As we know, he was, before he was in charge of security, he was in charge of having his own law practice. He also was a Crown prosecutor. So he asked a lot of questions about his background to make sure that he was a credible witness, so to speak. So he asked 4 times, being a lawyer, Crown prosecutor, understanding CSIS, is disclosing the identity of a man who is photographed in public bearing this flag is not protected by national security law or any law. So we're going to see why Brendan is asking this. Yesterday when Vigneault, the CSIS person in charge, said, I can't answer this question, I can't deny or confirm, we're going to talk about this because clearly he wants to ask from another angle, well, was this really a good answer? So obviously the first answer is, can you repeat the question? What you're suggesting is that, are you talking about a hypothetical scenario? So you can see he's not going to answer the question because these people are protecting each other, right? So it's not going to happen. So then the Government of Canada counselor jumped in. Mr. Commissioner, I have an objection. The placing of this photo is an abuse of the process, is not in good faith, and is distract from the fact-finding process. What are you talking about? We're trying to find the facts about the most important thing. You're calling these people a lot of names, IVME, just to start, and the only person who had that flag has been identified, and you don't want to talk about that fact, you're the one who doesn't want to talk about the reality of what we have in front of us. So injecting photos, funny he used that word, which the witnesses repeatedly, I object. So Brendan said, this is very important. We have a sworn affidavit of Brian Fox who identified this man. He met with him. He talked to him. I have an application to this commission to call Mr. Fox to the stand. The witness need to answer my question. The lead commissioner said, you might be acting based on Mr. Vigneault's answer. I think you might misunderstood and we can clarify. So look at what is happening here. Read between the lines. The lead commissioner is helping both the CSIS and Mendocino, who's in charge of security, to not disclose the truth. And then he continued, I'm talking about the lead commissioner, saying to Brendan, I will let you continue, but the evidence that you're proposing is not in the public record. That is not an appropriate, and he started to stutter. So either he's mad, he's not confident, he's lying, or combination of everything at this stage, but I will let you ask the question because of the outstanding motion at the moment. So once again, Brendan put in writing that he wanted to bring this witness forward. And he said he is right here, right now, when he was talking about him. He was present. So he allowed, quote, allowed this to continue. And then the lead commissioner said the CSIS answer is not a refusal to identify, it's because their job is to do investigations, and he can answer he didn't confirm or deny. And then the commission counselor intervened and said, if I may help, I refuse to admit or deny. They are not saying it's a national security, but they can take a position. So you can see they're all helping to hide the truth. So once again, for the fourth time, as a former prosecutor, a man with a flag in public, photograph in public, is not protected by a national security law. So look at the answer. I have no idea what this photo is, who is depicted, or any other circumstances. This is the first time I see this photo produced. Really? You're in charge of security and you've never seen this picture? Please. Question. You know that Brian Fox was the individual walking on downtown carrying that flag? No. Are you aware that Freedom Corp has applied for Mr. Fox to testify? I'm not aware. Are you aware of Enterprise Canada? We talked about this yesterday. Remember, the person who was carrying the flag works for Enterprise Canada, and this is a lobbying company for the Liberal Party. And they do work for the Liberal Party. I don't know. You know who David Chan is? No. He was the official photographer for Paul Martin, the Prime Minister. Did you know that? No. Did you know that Paul Chan is a freelance photographer for the Prime Minister, Trudeau? Again, no. He's in charge of safety. He doesn't even know how to turn off the lights, apparently. Question. Lucky told your chief of staff that she believed the Emergency Act was not required and the current elements were insufficient. Can you agree that no one told you from the law enforcement that there was specifically need for the Emergency Act? I disagree with that. The CSIS said the threshold had been met in the broadened interpretation of the law. Oh my gosh, I don't even know what to say. The lead commissioner examination, and you can see how happy he is. He's protected, so he doesn't care. He was, the lead commissioner was asking him about the Emergency Act versus the police because, again, there is proof that until February 13, we've seen those texts from Lucky, that is the commissioner of the RCMP, and she was not supportive of the Emergency Act. So he was trying to clarify, and then the lead commissioner answered, because he can go again and not answer the question. So the lead commissioner, actually this is an A, not a Q. The lead commissioner answered, you dodged my question, so it's okay if you don't want to answer. What? I just can't even understand what we're watching. Are they telling us blatantly that they lie to us and they do not care? This is the title of my video. Then there was the turn for the Minister, Dominique Leblanc. To be honest with you, I was very busy today. I didn't even listen to more than 5 minutes. The minute he started saying, yes, there was a very damaging illegal occupation, I said, I can't listen to these lies anymore. All we do is sit down for 10 hours or whatever number of hours you choose per day, and all you do is listen to lies. My point of view, this is not a trial, it's not an inquiry. This is a process that is required to be fulfilled. We Canadians are asked from the government to trust in what they tell us, but in an open inquiry, highly redacted documents are presented and evident lies are exposed with actual documents that prove their lies. And we are the conspiracy theorists. This is not a theory. There is a conspiracy of this government against us. Government of Canada, until this moment, disregards all proof that shows that these are so damaging. Do not stop transmission. Do not prevent the virus. It's been 3 years. Now we're supposed to believe that this thing and this thing work. How? How? If the real of the is actually taking place. This is causing this. It's not the other way around. Just look at any official number and you will see this. But this is what the Prime Minister thinks of us. We are this, we're this, we take space, we're being tolerated, and you can see we are replaceable and we will be replaced. Is that what we want? Thank you for listening, and thank you in advance to the Freedom Convoy 2.0. Thank you very much.